Ladies and gentlemen, it's over. Return home. Put down your arms, put down your keyboard, and return home to your family. Because the console war of PlayStation versus Xbox has ended. It's over. The proof is all over the place. Today's newest revelation just goes to show you how deep these handshakes and these peace treaties that PlayStation and Xbox have signed truly go. Yet there are still men and women out there in the field fighting for their lives. And it's like, return home to your family. Because a lot of you console warriors are like older people with like families and children and mortgages and stuff. Like maybe you should focus on that instead of simping for a box on Twitter. But it's over. It's done. You're all now just POW MIAs. And when I was a little kid, I would see those shirts, the POW Maya shirts, and I always thought it was a cool biker gang or something like that, because it was usually like bigger, burly people that were wearing those shirts, and I was like, oh, look at these dudes. They're in a cool biker gang. And then I asked my mom about it one time, and she told me that it was prisoners of war missing in action. And I was like, oh, well, that's not quite exactly a cool biker gang, but you're all prisoners of war missing in action. Go home to your families. Go spend time with your son, because the console wars are over. Now, there's been lots of indications of this. When PlayStation brought Lego Horizon Adventures over to the Nintendo Switch, that should have been a big red flag for people. Oh no, it's not a big deal. Everyone's already given up on Xbox. Xbox went from, oh, it's only 4 games to, no, it's a lot more games, and here are games that just came out on Xbox that are coming out on PlayStation 5 as well. Xbox fans have at least somewhat understood that the console wars as far as exclusivity are indeed over, but the PlayStation ones, they're still holding on to hope. And if this Helldivers 2 Xbox launch trailer did not kill every bit of hope that you have for a future console wars, I don't know what to say to you. I feel like you are a lost cause at that point in time. When you look at the trailer that went up today for Helldivers 2, the Xbox specific edition, it looks like Helldivers 2. Okay, a game that PlayStation wanted on Xbox. We know that PlayStation is the one who did this. A PlayStation published game coming over to Xbox with a multiplayer, strong multiplayer focus. So, you know, they're trying to up the player base. But at the end of this trailer, is what ended the console wars indefinitely for me. And that was a Halo 3 ODST tease at the end of this trailer. Now wrap your mind around that for a second. Let's take a step back here. This is a PlayStation published game, a game that PlayStation wanted to put on Xbox, and PlayStation, in a PlayStation trailer, is showing a Master Chief Halo ODST teaser. Stop it. Stop. Return home to your families. They're hungry. They miss their mom. They miss their dad. It's primarily dads, let's be realistic, but they miss their father. Okay? You could tell the war stories that you encountered on the Twitter console wars to your children. But when PlayStation is right there thrusting it into your face, you have to come to this realization. You have to come to the realization that PlayStation is indeed going to be following a somewhat similar trajectory that what Xbox is doing. Do I think it's going to be as drastic as Xbox? No. Do I think it's going to be everything that PlayStation ever makes? No. But I do think it's going to be something. I do think it's going to be more than people are wanting to admit it's going to be. Now, I know that Digital Foundry recently came out and said, oh, well, it was just a job listing. The whole thing that we talked about with PlayStation looking for people to port games to stuff like Switch 2 and Xbox and PC, that was just a job listing. It's not necessarily indicative of their exclusive strategy. And they're allowed to have their opinion on that subject matter. And obviously, they do have their ear quite low to the streets, and they probably hear some things from time to time. And if you want to listen to that to feed into your console fanboyism, like, go right ahead. But when people that work at Sony are pretty much telling you, hey, we kind of want to move away from the hardware model, and we kind of want to focus more so on the community model. Like, the hardware is still cool, it's still a focus, but we really want people to get into our ecosystem and play our games. Does that not sound exactly like Xbox? Does that not sound exactly like Xbox, what they were saying a couple of years ago? And then you look at what they're doing now, like, the writing is right there. They're telling you to your face, and there are still people in denial about it. And I get it. You know, PlayStation, to me, is a stronger brand than Xbox is, especially in 2025. PlayStation exclusives are stronger than Xbox exclusives, especially in 2025. But the problem is, and this is something that we have seen all throughout the industry, why would they be wanting to do this? And I think it's a multitude of different reasons. You can't really just pinpoint one specific thing, but I do think that there are certain factors that are pretty much across the board for both PlayStation and Xbox when it comes to the why of why they're doing this. Because obviously, if you're someone older who grew up with console exclusives and understand that exclusives are the reason that we bought consoles, you know, up until really the last generation. You want to play a Gears of War, you bought an Xbox. You want to play a Mario, you buy a Nintendo. You want to play God of War, you buy a PlayStation. It's always kind of been like that. But the problem is kind of a multiple step problem. I think one of the biggest problems is just the inherent rise of game development cost. As we get into these more, you know, technologically advanced games, they cost more money to make, and more importantly, they take longer to make, which also costs money because you have to pay the people that are working on the game. So when these games come out and they sell a couple milli, that used to be more than enough to greenlight sequels and prequels and threequels and stuff like that. You used to be in a time frame where you sold 100,000 to 200,000 copies. You were pretty much getting greenlit for a sequel back in like the 16-bit era, and even really by extension the 32-bit era. But as these games got more technologically advanced and the mediums kept pushing, you have to sell more because you have to cover your costs. Like, if you look at the stark turnaround of a game like Shenmue, which had such a crazy budget when it came out, you know, 25 years ago roughly on the Sega Dreamcast versus what game budgets are nowadays, a company would love to have a big AAA impactful game that cost what Shenmue cost, but it's just not feasible anymore because of the marketing cost and all this, that, and the other. And then on the other hand, you have the rise of investors, and people like to push back so much with me on whenever I bring up investors and how they are a negative influence, I feel, in the gaming sphere. People like to push back on me so much on that, and they like to say things like, oh, well, investors have always been around. You know, some of these companies have always had investors, and you're right. You're 100% right. But how many investors did they have then versus than they have now? How many big players were investing in these companies? You have to understand that as more investors get involved and more money comes in, the expectations get higher. So as the video game industry continues to bloom and grow and expand and stuff like that, the more money that comes in, the more money these games, these consoles, these accessories, they need to make these things. How many times have we heard, oh, profits are up. It was our best year ever from these companies. Oh, our stock is at an all-time high. We're doing so great. And yet gamers aren't really reaping the rewards of this. You're not getting more games at a rapid rate from these companies because their stock is higher. You're not getting cheaper games and cheaper consoles because their stock is higher and they hit all these revenue goals. If anything, you're getting longer wait times. You're getting more price raises and stuff like that, because all of this stuff is just to benefit the money aspect, not the consumer aspect. We have been overridden by what are these investors, and PlayStation sees that. PlayStation, I think, understands, yeah, we could sell our PS5 with our exclusive game on it. Look at a game like Spider-Man. Look at the licensing costs of Spider-Man. You think PlayStation doesn't want to put Spider-Man on other things? You think PlayStation doesn't want to put an old Horizon game, like the original Horizon game, onto Xbox and Nintendo Switch 2? And the mentality that they give the investors is, oh, well, this is an older one. We're just trying to get them into our ecosystem. You want to play the latest one, then you come over here to death row. I mean, PS5 or PS6 by the time we probably get there with something like that. And it's just like, dude, you have to understand why this is happening. And it's not going to get any better. They're not going to walk this back and be like, oh, well, never mind. We're gonna focus strictly on the console. This company went from PlayStation is the best place to play. We don't want to do Fortnite crossplay to, hey, let's put a game on Xbox. Let's put a game on Nintendo Switch. The turnaround is crazy. But I say all that to say, gentlemen, ladies, put down your coat of arms. Put down your defense mechanisms, and just accept that this is how it's going to be. If you want to relive the console war eras, pick up a PS3, pick up a PS2, you can even pick up a PS4. You can play your PS4 games on PS5. Check out the old consoles, relive the glory days. It's kind of like pro wrestling. Pro wrestling was at its peak when the competition was high. WCW versus WWF. Video games, I feel, were at their peak when competition was high. But when these companies start to work with each other because they realize we need money, we need to appease investors, we need to, sell billions of copies because these games cost so much, at some point in time, something is going to give. And I will be there to watch the empire crumble. Anyways, guys, those are just my thoughts on it. Maybe you think differently, and if so, I pray for your soul. I pray for you. I hope something happens in your life to make you realize that it's over. It's over. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.